Hey there, today we'll be adding our bot to a GitHub repository and creating a cool welcome message that looks something like this. Again, for my tutorial videos, I go into a lot of depth with explaining, so feel free to skip around with the timestamps. Now let's get right into setting up with the GitHub repository. Before we set up the GitHub repository, I'm going to show you how to use a .env file to store secrets such as bot tokens. So let's create the .env file and then add in our token. So the name of the variable is token, and on the right hand side you'll want to paste your token, which I'm not going to show on screen. Now we can go ahead and add the npm package .env and load that in our index file with require.env.config. And essentially this allows us to load all the .env variables into a global variable that you can access anywhere in your code with process.env. So instead of client.login with the token, we can replace it with process.env.token, which now will have the value in the .env file. Now let's add our code to a GitHub repository. A quick introduction for those that are new. GitHub allows us to save many versions of our files. In simpler terms, it creates backups and allows us to do undo edits on files on every saved version. This is also known as version control. A repository refers to a specific project and all the various versions of the code and files saved. To manage the repository, we'll be using a piece of software called Git. Now, back to the project. First, we'll set up a .gitignore file, which tells Git to avoid tracking and adding certain files to our GitHub repository. .gitignore. And in this file, we'll want to add the .env file that we had just created earlier, and we'll also want to add the node modules folder and package.lock.json file, since our package.json file already keeps track of all of the npm packages that we can download anytime. So for files, we can just enter the file name followed by a new line. So .env, enter. And for the directories or folders, we can enter the name of the folder followed by slash. Package.lock.json, enter, and the node modules folder, slash. And now let's create our repository on GitHub. So go to github.com and let's go on ahead and create new repository. And here for the repository name, I will just call this Nibot, and you can call this whatever you want. And here I will be making this public so it's accessible to you guys, but if you do make your repository private, you all need to set up SSH on your local computer and GitHub. I will have a tutorial linking to that in the top right hand corner of the video. And we will not be initializing any of these because we already have an existing folder. So let's go ahead and create repository. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and copy this SSH link, which we will be using later in the video. Now, back to VS Code, let's initialize this directory with a GitHub repository. Go to the terminal and type in git init. If this results in an error, you may have to install the Git program on your computer. You should be able to find the information on how to do so with a simple Google search. This git init command adds configuration files under a hidden folder in a directory called .git. Next, we'll make a commit. You can run the command git status to see the files that have been tracked as changed or modified. Note that the files and folders that we added to the gitignore do not show up here, like the .env. Now we can add all the files to the git commit by adding git add dot, and now we can commit the changes using the command git commit -m, which means a comment, and we can type in here the comment of the commit. So I'm going to call it initialize GitHub repository and hit enter. And now let's go ahead and create the main branch. For now, don't worry about what branches are. Git branch -m, capital M, main. And now we can go ahead and add the repository SSH address that we copied from earlier with git remote add origin and paste that link in. Hit enter. And now finally, we can go ahead and push our local repository to the one on github.com with git push. And we'll have to use this full command. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it. And there we go. Now if we go to github.com and reload the page, we should see that our files have been added to the online repository. Now we will create the image welcome message. To do this, we will add a listener event to when a user joins a server. So here under message create, I'm going to add client.on and member guild member add, and here it will take in a parameter called member. And really quickly, we'll go to our Discord server, and we'll go ahead and add a new text channel called welcome. Go ahead and create the channel, and you'll want to copy the ID of that channel by right-clicking and clicking on copy ID. In the case that copy ID does not show up, you may have to turn on developer mode for your Discord account. Now going back here, we can go ahead and add this channel as a constant. We'll call it const welcome channel ID equals, and then the ID. For the simplicity of testing, let's quickly add a message to the event to send a message ping the user when they join. So we can have member.guild, which references the guild object, and we can take all the channels from the channel.cache, which is essentially a list of all the channels of that server, and get by the ID that we had earlier, welcome channel ID, and we are sending the message. So let's ping the user, and to do this we do less than at and write the ID of the user, so member.id. This is essentially just how Discord formats mentions, and welcome to the server, exclamation mark. Now before we can test this out, we need to make two other changes. First, in our code, we need to scroll back up to the intent, and we need to go ahead and add in the guild members intent so we are able to listen for when a new user joins the guild. And second of all, we'll need to go to our Discord developer portal, which I assume you already know how to navigate to since we covered this in the last episode, and go down to privileged gateway intents and turn on this server members intent and click on save changes. Now once we've done that, we can go back to our code, and we can try and run the bot. And there we go. And let's go to Discord. And here, really quickly, I can go ahead and join with my alt account. Since I've joined earlier, I can go ahead and kick them out so that they can rejoin. And there we go. As you can see, the user just joined again, and the welcome message is now shown by our bot. Now we will create the image with the welcome message by using a package called Canvas. Let's go ahead and install it. So open up the terminal and type in npm I canvas. This package will give us the ability to draw text, shapes, and images onto a canvas, which then can be converted into an image file and finally uploaded to Discord. To keep things neat, I'll be creating a separate file where we'll put the function for creating this image. So let's go to the side, new file, and I'll call it generate image.js. And in here, first thing we'll need to do is import the canvas package with const canvas equals require canvas. And then let's create our function. Let's do const generate image equals, and this will be an asynchronous function, member. We'll take in the guild member object from the welcome, and then let's grab some information from the member, which we'll be using later on in the function. So let username equals member.user.username, and let descrim, which is the four numbers at the end of the username, member.user.discriminator, and let avatar URL. So we're going to fetch the avatar of the user. We'll get that with member.user.display avatar URL, and in here we'll have format is PNG, and dynamic, which essentially is asking whether or not it's a GIF image or not. We want it in PNG, so this will be false. And we have the size, which I will have as a separate variable up at top. We'll have const AV, and we're going to specify some sizes. So here we'll have a size being 256, so this is in pixels, and here we'll do av.size. Before we continue, I have already chosen a background that I'll be using for this image. This image is 1200 by 670, and the coordinates of the rest of the messages here will be matched for this background size, so they might differ if you're using a different size image for your background and canvas. I've already uploaded this image to an image hosting service earlier, so we can use a URL. You can use whatever image host service you like, but I used Imgur. So let's go to the top of the file, and here I will add in const background, and I'll put in the link of the URL, which is here. And then let's add in some more values of sizes that I've calculated out beforehand for the image. We have the avatar here, and these will be the position coordinates of the X and the Y. Again, these numbers I've already done beforehand, so I'll just be adding them here. If you have a different size, they might differ, and you might have to play around with it or calculate out with algebra to see what size fits best. And here the dim will be the dimensions of the canvas itself, which is the size of the background. And there we go. Next, we'll create the canvas with the dimensions indicated and create a context object which will be used to add the image and text to the image. So if we scroll down back to our function, hit enter, we're going to do canvas equals, and then we're going to go ahead and create a canvas. So this is where our things will be drawn with the dimension.width and dimension.height. And we're going to go ahead and create a context. We'll call it CTX. This will essentially be like where we can draw on the canvas itself. So canvas.getContext and 2D. And first, let's draw on the background. So let's go ahead and take the background image. So back image equals, and then here we'll want to use the canvas.load image, which will fetch it from the image URL that we had from earlier. Background, I believe is what I called it. Yep. And then we'll go ahead and draw that into our canvas. So we can use ctx.drawImage, and we'll draw the back image, and this will be located at 0, 0, which is the top left-hand corner. So it should essentially fill the entire canvas. Now let's go ahead and add the black tinted box, which will help us improve text readability from the background. So for this, let's create a text fill. We'll create a fill style first. And for this, we'll use RGBA 000.8. And essentially what this means is we're creating black, which is with RGB all zeros, and the 0.8 indicates the transparency, which is 80%. And we'll be filling in with a rectangle. So ctx.fillRect equals dim.margin. This is the x coordinate of the top left hand side, and then dim.margin. And then for the bottom right hand corner, we'll have dim.width minus 2 times dim.margin, and dim.height minus 2 times dim.margin. There we go. So this should draw the black tinted box for us. Let's go ahead and add a comment here. Draw black tinted box, and let's add a comment here. Draw in the background. And now let's move on to drawing in the avatar image. So again, we need to load in the avatar image just like we did for the background. So const, we'll call it avimg equals await canvas.load image, and we'll put in the avatar URL here. Now to give it that circular shape that we saw earlier, we need to use something called clipping. If you used Photoshop before, this is similar to making a selection and then pasting in the image so it only fills the selected portion. First, we'll need to save the current context with ctx.save. And now we'll draw in the selection using the arc tool. Essentially, we'll be drawing in a circle, which then is selected, and then we can draw in the image. So we write ctx.beginPath, and then we can draw in the arc with ctx.arc, and we have av.x, which is the x coordinates, plus the av.size divided by 2, and the av.y plus av.size divided by 2. So essentially this is the center of the arc, and the next parameter will be the radius. So we'll have the half of the size of the image. And then we'll have the angle at which it starts at in radians. So we'll start at 0, and we'll make it go to 2 pi. So math.pi times 2, and I'll just have counterclockwise as true. Now we can go ahead and close the path, close path, and we can go ahead and clip. So essentially this is like selecting that. And now we can go ahead and draw in the avatar image with ctx.drawImage, and we can put in AVIMG, and similar to the other one, we can center it with the top left hand corner, which will be AV.x and AV.y. And finally, we can restore the rest of the image context that we'd stored earlier with the ctx.save with ctx.restore. And now let's go ahead and test this out, see where we are at. So let's go ahead and convert this canvas to an image and then try uploading it to Discord. So const attachment equals new Discord dot, we need to go ahead and import Discord, I believe, if we haven't already ahead. So const Discord equals require discord.js. Let's go back down. We want to create a message attachment, and here we'll do canvas.toBuffer. So this will essentially put the data into a format that the discord.message attachment function can then take in and create an image with, and we'll call this file welcome.png, and we'll return the attachment. So now this function is complete. However, this is inside this file, and we'll need to make sure that we can access it outside. So we'll go ahead and export this using module.exports equals, and this is called generate image. So now we can go ahead and go to our index file and import that in. Go to the top, do const generate image equals require generate image, and this should be the function. Let me check the name, generate image. Yep, that should be right. And now if we go to the guild member add, we can go ahead and call that function. But do take note, since that was an asynchronous function, we do need to make this also async so that we can use the await keyword. So we can do const image equals await generate image, pass in the member, and then here for the send, we'll go ahead and adjust this slightly. This will be the content. Let's go ahead and paste this over here, which is essentially the text of the message, and then we have the files, which will be the image included in there. So let's go ahead, put that in, and we'll try it out in the Discord. Before we continue, I need to make one correction to the import here. This is a default import, so we do not need these two brackets. And now let's go ahead and run our code, node index.js. There we go, we're logged in. Now let's go ahead, switch to Discord, and let me go ahead and log back in with this account. So let's go ahead and kick him out, and let me rejoin, and give it a second here. And there's our image. Now let's go ahead and draw in the text for our welcome message. So let's go to our generate image function and go back up. Before we convert it to an attachment here, let's go ahead and add in the text. So we'll write in text. And here first we'll switch the context style. So ctx.fill style, we'll make it white. So our text font will be in white color, and the text alignment will switch to center. And now here we're going ahead and draw in the big welcome text. So draw in welcome. We're going to switch the font size to 50 pixels large, and I'm going to use Roboto font. You'll have to check if your computer supports this font or other fonts that you decide to use. And CTX will now draw on the text with .fill text. We'll write in welcome, and here again these coordinates are in relation to what I have for my size, so they might not fit for you. Dimension divided by 2, which is the x coordinate, and the y coordinate margin I'm going to plus 70. And now let's draw in the username. So ctx.font, we're going to change it to make it a little bigger to 60. Same font family, and we're going to fill text again. This time we'll add the username plus the discriminator and the x coordinate dot width divided by 2 and the height minus the margin minus 125, and finally the draw in to the server. So we'll change the font size again. This time I'll make it 40 pixels. Roboto again, and fill text. This time we have to the server. For the x, again, the width divided by 2, and for the height, minus margin and minus 50. And there we go. Before we continue with the video, I'd like to ask if you've made it so far in the video to hit that like button and subscribe if you found this helpful and you want more. And also, I always read the comments, so let me know if there's any confusion here, questions, or if there's any other types of content that you want more of. Now, let's go ahead and try this out. So let's rerun the bot. And let's go to the Discord server. And let me go ahead and kick and rejoin once more. Again, this takes a minute because my internet speed is kind of low, not because that it takes a very long time to generate it. And there we go. There's our image. Now that we're done, I'm going to go ahead and push these updates to the GitHub repository that we made earlier. So let's go back to our code. And let's type in git add dot, which essentially adds in all of our edited files. And then git commit. I will call this commit part 2. And finally git push. And there we go. I will be linking this GitHub repository so you can check out the code itself in the description below. And I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, but in the next video we'll be looking at how to set up command handlers and using the buttons. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.